Hi, it's Tim Hagen from Progress Coaching, and welcome to another episode of Coaching Conversations. And I wanted to make you aware of something very cool that we're doing on a subscription basis, and we'll put a link in each one of our episodes. But every Wednesday, we're going to be doing what we call an audio podcast workshop. That workshop will be roughly about 14 to maybe 20 minutes per episode, with each month having a theme from a coaching model, using feedback strategically, to coaching self-awareness, and so on. So if you could look in the body or in the content description of each episode, and you will see a link where you can join this subscription. These are literally 4 workshops every month teaching specific strategies to address a particular area of workplace coaching as it relates, again, to things like awareness, motivation, teamwork, and what have you. Here's the cool thing. It's only $10 per month, and each month you will get a handout that we will follow along with. So we also give you a tool for you to take notes as we go through each episode. We hope you'll check it out.
New managers certainly have a major challenge when developing and coaching new talent or old existing talent as they become new managers and lead their teams. Now, trust is a very, very nebulous thing. So often we think about trust and we put our own spin and interpretation on it. Yet the thing that we make the biggest mistake of is our definition, our way of trust, our intention behind trust cannot be bestowed as a belief system on other people. Now, let me give you a really rough example. I've coached volleyball on and off for 30 years, and I always used to lead my parent meetings with a little bit of humor, but certainly sending a message. I would always ask parents, show me by a raising your hands, how many of you want me to be really honest about your kid's ability? Everybody's hands in the room go up. And then I make the joke, I said, you're all lying to yourselves, and everybody starts laughing. Because what they're really saying is, you know what? I don't really want to hear all the constructive things about my kid. Because that's tough to hear. It's tough to hear about your most prized asset thing in the world, your kid, maybe not being good enough. That's tough to hear. How often in the corporate workplace do we hear where trust gets in the way of the team? How often do we hear people at the water cooler talking about somebody else? And then you quickly realize the person who's complaining never went to the source and talked to them directly. Yet we're now talking behind that person's back. One of the things that we share at Progress Coaching all the time is conversations make cultures. Not engagement studies, not leadership programs, not training program. It's the way we converse and interact with each other. And so often corporate entities and organizations and nonprofits will inevitably have the word trust in their corporate values or mission. Yet do we really teach people how to be trustworthy? How to be honest? And let's be blunt. Being honest is hard. Let me give you another example. Guys, if your wife is coming down the stairs and she's wearing a dress that, let's say, you just don't like, you don't think she looks good in it. Of course, you never share that. And your wife says, how do I look? What do? You don't say, actually terrible. You get back upstairs and change. You're not going to do that. I know I'm not doing that. And so again, being honest and building trust is tough, especially as a new manager. So one of the biggest things that we have to be careful of with new managers is to position them to facilitate trust. So number one, when you're building trust, find out what somebody personally and specifically wants to accomplish. Number two, find out what type of motivation they have. Are they intrinsically motivated? Do they get motivated by things within the job? Or are they extrinsically motivated, such as they have future endeavors outside of the job that they want to explore or expand into? Number three, this is going to seem very, very simple. Ask people, when you hear the word trust, what does that specifically and personally mean to you? And what would you like from me to support that definition? Now, that's our strategy of define and coach. Instead of defining it for the whole team, you can still do that, but ask each individual, when you hear the word trust, what does that mean to you? And what would you like me to do as the leader to support that? It's a weird question, and I promise you, as a new manager, you will have people who cannot answer that, but it gets them thinking. Number 4, establish your own rules. I cannot stress this enough. I can talk till my deathbed. I've said it since I started this company 24 years ago. It is the number one thing that creates a lack of communication and trust in the corporate workplace. It is something that cannot be argued. It cannot be dismissed. Boy, doesn't that sound dictative. And the rule is go to the source. New managers, if you establish the rule, go to the source and you explain it and you define it, you are going to eliminate 50% of the conflict that typically arises as a result of not going to the source. Going to the source is, if you have an issue with a person, you go to that person and you coach them, you teach them how to do it, you teach them how to do it professionally and thoughtfully. Since I did this episode of this podcast of Coaching Conversations, in the last 2 weeks, I have been told about 3 occasions in this new virtual world where people did not go to the source. See, now with the virtual world, guess what? We can kind of have conversations at the water cooler without physically being at the water cooler. And going to the source is, if you have an issue with a person, you go to that person directly and you thoughtfully and professionally try to work it out. So often, and it happened in these 3 occasions, people came to the manager complaining about somebody else. And in all 3 occasions, when the manager came to me and said, how would you coach these people to work it out? I said, I have a question for you. 3 managers, 3 different organizations that do not know each other, almost identical situations. I said, did you ask the person or persons who came to you if they went to the source? Well, no, I wanted to try to help them work it out. I said, so what just happened is, by you taking that conversation, guess what happened? You have now positioned them to not go to the source, to talk behind one another's backs. May not be your intention, but you have opened that door. All 3 managers, again, not knowing each other, said, what should I have done? I said, the first question should be, how did the person that you're concerned about or you're having discord with handle it when you came to them? The minute they say, and they will, oh, I didn't go to them, I wanted to go to you first. The first words out of your mouth are, I think you have an awesome opportunity to work it out directly with that person to sustain and uphold the trust that we all said that we wanted. 5th, trust is something that we have to demonstrate. Trust is something that we have to exhibit. There is no greater simple way for a new manager to build trust than to give a pat on the back, verbally or in written format, in front of the powers to be. So if a new manager sees an employee going above and beyond the call of duty or doing some really good work, and they send out an email and they carbon copy the powers to be, the person that is being mentioned, that is on the team, will look at that new manager and say, wow, he or she's got my back. See, trust is not something that we immediately come out and say, I got a problem with this trust principle. I'm a pretty dishonest person. You're not going to have that. And so trust is a moving target unless we define it, unless we ask people, but we also have to demonstrate it. So these 5 strategies will help a new manager, but I cannot stress. Number 1, go to the source. It's tough. People have inadequacies, they have insecurities, they have fear. They don't want to cross that line. They'd rather have somebody else do it. That's why we vent about other people. Because if we can vent about other people, what we're really doing is getting it off our chest. And that way we don't have to have the conflict associated with going to the person directly. So as a new manager, think about these 5 strategies. Think about sitting down with your team, defining what is trust? What does it mean to you personally and specifically? Find out how they're motivated. Establish the rule of going to the source. And remember, always remember, to demonstrate trust. By demonstrating trust, by showing someone you're going to promote them, you're going to give them accolades, you're going to show people above you what somebody has done that has been above and beyond the call of duty. And here's the other thing. As a new manager, the more you promote your team, you're also promoting yourself. Now, you don't do it for that purpose. That's dangerous. The key to building trust on a team is on a holistic group basis, but also on an individual basis. And I would encourage you, make sure your team has a demonstration and a definition of trust. And what I mean by a demonstration is literally talk about it out loud. Share how to go to somebody directly. And then number 2, have actions and behaviors that exhibit support of that definition. Once you have that, it really levels everything else off. By having people learn how to have conflict and go to the source, 50% of your conflict will go away.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Coaching Conversations by Tim Hagen and Progress Coaching. Now, our company is always coming out with new and innovative solutions to help leaders coach their employees. And recently, we just created a new service called Coach to You, where leaders can pick and choose topics and assign 7 to 21-day programs for employees to learn and, more importantly, apply actions and then reflect and share what they're going to do going forward as a result of the learning. It's called Coach to You. We're literally bringing coaching to your employees. If you're intrigued, we'll have a link in each one of our episodes where you can get more information. And again, thank you so much for listening to another episode.